Before we even had language and words, we were counting and looking for patterns. It's only natural that we'd see relationships between numbers and the paths of our lives. Welcome to Truly Terrified, Paranormal versus Physics, where we talk about some really weird stuff, and Joe the scientist explains how it's not possible, or maybe it is. I'm Lynn, and
I'm Joe.
I've always been attracted to numbers. One Christmas when I was pretty young, it was all the rage, these new things called pocket calculators. And my mom gave me a calculator for Christmas, and I was thrilled. You'd think...
What could it do?
Add, subtract, divide.
It did it automatically.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it had the numbers for it. It didn't do any complicated computations. It was pretty big.
Yeah.
It was pretty big.
I think at that time.
Yeah. And it probably took a 9-volt battery. I mean, it was pretty big.
Yeah.
You'd think because of that, liking numbers and liking to add numbers and subtract numbers and divide them and see the relationships between this thing and that thing expressed as a number, that I'd be interested in and have fallen for numerology. But I really haven't. So when I looked into it, I don't know. I don't know what I think.
In terms of...
I don't know.
You don't know that you agree with it?
Well, okay, let's just dive into it. Numerology is a belief in the mystical relationship between numbers and events that happen in the material world. It involves assigning numerical values to letters and words and interpreting those numbers to uncover hidden meanings or predict future events. And I found a lot of facts about it. And there are a lot of people saying they believe in it. But I didn't see any explanation for why that would be the case, other than...
Why they believe in it?
No, why they think that numbers would...
Why it works?
Yeah.
I mean, so... can you do you have an example of one that, like...
Of a story?
Well, no. Like, how to calculate a number.
Oh, I have lots of them.
Okay, go.
Lots and lots of them. Okay, so there's lots of different ways that people that people categorize numerology. So there's different methods and there's different things you count up the numbers for. I'm just going to give you a couple examples and then we'll dive right into one that I did for both of us. There's your destiny number. There's your soul urge number. It's also called your heart's desire number. It's derived from the vowels in your name. You assign a number to the vowels. You add them up. The number you come up with is meaningful in some way. Your personal year number. So how it works is you assign a number. Like I said, you assign a number to letters, or you just actually take the numbers in some event in your life, like the day you were born, and you add them up. So you calculate those, and then you interpret them. And there's you end up with a number between 1 and 9, and because you reduce it down to, you keep adding them until you get just a single digit.
So yeah, that's the one that's like I've seen how they work. Like you take you take characters, like letters, and each one has a number value, and you add them, and you get a new set of number values. Like the individual digits of the number, you calculate it in the first step, and you add those together, you get a new, and you reduce it down until it's like a single digit.
Yeah, that's exactly what they do. And then there's meaning assigned to each number from 1 to 9, and so that's where the meaning comes in. That's where the interpretation comes in. There's different systems of numerology. There's Pythagorean numerology, which is also Western. It's the most common system and uses a straightforward method of assigning numbers to letters. There's the Chaldean numerology. That's an older system, and it assigns different values to letters, and it's considered more complex. Then there's the Kabbalah numerology, which is rooted in Jewish mysticism, and it focuses primarily on interpreting names. So people use numerology for personal insight. They use it to determine if they're compatible with another person, and they use it to predict future events. So I'm not exactly sure how only these 9 different things could do all of that. These 9 different definitions for
9 because it's 9 digits.
9 digits.
Plus 1? Because you could have 0.
As far as I could see, there was no 0.
Okay, that's interesting.
Okay, so that's the life path number. To go back to what you asked for an example. So you write out your birthday in digits. For instance, if your birthday was November 2nd, 1998, you would say it's 11/2/1998. So it's 1 plus 1, that's the 11, plus 2, that's the 2, plus 1 plus 9 plus 9 plus 8. That would be 31. Then you keep adding until you get a single digit. So in that case, 3 plus 1 would equal the life path number of 4. So without giving away my birth date, because that would be foolish to do in a public arena, my life path number reduced down comes to 9. Okay, keep that in mind. So there are multiple schools of thought in what order to add those numbers. Some think you just add them like I just did, or some think you should do another method, but we're just going to use that one because it's the most common one in the United States. So that double digit number before you get to the number that you reduce to the final thing, which was a 2 and a 7 for me, which would equal 9, that would be 27. So 27 is apparently your turning point age. So at age 27, there was some turning point for me. At age 27, was there a turning point for me? I don't know. I mean, every day is a turning point, I don't know.
Conceivably, you could end up with like a number like 99, right?
Yeah, you could. For you, without saying the date of your birthday, your life path number is 3, and that turning point age is 30. So at 30, was there a turning point? I would say if there was a turning point in your life, it was probably when you were 29.
Yeah.
So that's kind of whatever.
What do the single digit numbers mean?
The single digit number is your...
what do those particular ones mean?
Okay, I'm going to read them to you.
Okay,
so yours is 3, and it means... Okay, I'm just going to read it. And
Go ahead,
copyright be damned. 3s love to communicate, and they love to make people happy. Other descriptions of a 3 are joyful, artistic, outgoing, cheerful, enthusiastic, and charming. Their greatest gift is their ability to speak their truth and to learn to spark joy in others. 3 is a particular favorite because they are old souls. Challenges are: the shadow side of 3 is to worry, to lack concentration and focus, to easily get distracted. 3s may also be plagued with a bad work ethic, jealousy, and a tendency to criticize and stir up drama. That would be so not you. I can't even express enough how that is not you. They might also struggle with anxiety and depression as well as isolation when going through a tough time. That might be you, but I don't know.
And you?
Okay, so 9 is, and I just want you to know, out of all the numbers in the world, 3 is my favorite number. I don't know why. I've always loved the number 3. And when I was 3 years old, I thought 3 is the most perfect number there is. So we are who we are from the very beginning. So 9 embodies unconditional love, and 9 people are open-minded, creative, romantic, empathetic, and magnetic. Well, there you go. That just sums it up. 9 is also a humanitarian number marked by charitableness, kindness, and idealism. I don't know about this. On the flip side, 9s can struggle with holding on to things. They're extremely sensitive, resentful, cautious, nervous, gullible, easily used by others, and pessimistic about the world and the future. You can go ahead and have an opinion about all of that.
So here's the issue I see with that. That's determined by like birth dates, right? You could go through everyone with a particular birth date because it resolves down to the day, not hour, minute, whatever. You could take everyone on that particular day, do personality tests on them, and then see if there's any correlation. And there would be a very strong correlation between...
If this is accurate.
Yeah,
yes.
If this is accurate. But beyond that, if you went back to, let's say somebody designed our number system, which really wasn't the case, but let's say thousands of years ago or whatever, somebody designed our number system. So we have 10 distinct characters for 0, 1 through 9, and then we chain those to build bigger or smaller numbers. Oh, also, let's say the same person designed our calendar and our calendar system, our year system.
Mm-hmm.
So it determines the month numbers, year numbers, everything. And they're tuning it so that this number system, this numerology system works in the future. Like, let's say at this particular time, the best they could do is map each person to 9 different values.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what,
mm-hmm.
there's going to be a statistical distribution for each person to each, or types of people to each digit. And some people will absolutely, because of that, be in the wrong category, regardless. There's no other way to do it. You can't, it's not like you have 100 billion different combinations. You have 9.
Mm-hmm.
So you divide up all the people, and then there are 9 categories of those people. No matter what, there's going to be some people in the wrong category. That is a statistical certainty.
Okay, so you're absolutely right. Here's one of the other issues with this. Every place I looked had slightly different definitions for each of the numbers. So it's not like, it's not like these are the definitions for the numbers and they're written in stone. So it's really very interpretive and subjective. So here was one of the other things that I thought was interesting, because this is something a lot of people brought up. A lot of people brought up that a number pops up in their life all the time. I can remember for years, I would wake up at 2:11 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
2:11. I would wake up, look at the clock, it was 2:11. It happened over and over and over. And I decided that something must be happening outside at 2:11 that was waking me up. But I don't think so. I think that you have an internal clock, and for whatever reason, that's whatever happens. Another number that pops up for me is 652. It pops up all the time. If I look at the clock, it will be 6:52. 6:52 at night, 6:52 in the morning. If I go to do something, it will be the number 652. It happens all the time. 652 happens to be the address of my childhood home. Do you have a number like that pops up?
There have been numbers like the waking up at a particular time thing. I have experienced that, and there have been numbers that have reoccurring. Usually like double-digit numbers. I think 11 stands out, though.
That's a really common one.
One possible regular everyday explanation for that is your brain is actually processing a lot more than you're consciously aware of, and so it processes all the numbers you see potentially, and then because particular numbers excite certain parts of your brain more, maybe because you have experience with that number, like it was an old association, like an old house number. Then that rises up to potentially conscious awareness. Mm-hmm. So there are mechanisms, and also, of course, just regular, is it pareidolia? Is that what it's called? Mm-hmm. You say random noise as meaningful. Regardless, those mechanisms will be happening above or on top of any paranormal thing that's happening. It's one of those things, like, how can you then even be sure even if you were sure it was paranormal, how could you be sure any case of what you're seeing is the paranormal thing or the regular thing? Well,
there are lots of people with lots of different theories about why those numbers pop up. But one of the most common one was some variation of this theme. A lot of people said they noticed these numbers for themselves. Each number was different for different people, although 11 was one that was pretty common. They said that it will appear in license plates or clocks, like the time, phone numbers, addresses, and like that. So one theory was that it means that you and your angels are in sync. Now, I'm not really sure what your angels are, what they're referring to, why you would have specific angels that are assigned to you that need to be in sync with you, because if they're assigned with you,
mean?
That I'm assuming that it means that you're on the same wavelength or page.
Okay, I gotta say it again, as usual. A lot of people use like certain words which are more general than they're trying to use them. They're using a word as a stand-in for something as if it's a particular thing, but it's not. So like in this case, it was in sync. So they're picturing something in their brain, a process happening, but they could not possibly elaborate on like the very details of what that looks like, Well,
one person,
and it's easy to do. You just say the word and there you go. It's the thing you're thinking of. It
conjures up something, yeah. One person said it means your prayers are being heard by your angels.
Heard as in like the angels are consciously aware that you are trying to communicate to them, and they're receiving the communication.
And most people, when they say your prayers have been heard, they say that to mean that your prayers will be answered, that you will.
The implication
is yes. So again, let me go back. I don't even know what that means. Your angels are, that you have personal angels. And if you have personal angels, why would it take some extra event to put you in alliance with them?
True.
I mean, I don't even understand that. I don't understand that. And I'm not saying there aren't angels, and I'm not saying that you don't have personal angels. I'm just saying I don't really understand what that means. Another theory is that it means you are in alignment with the frequency of your departed loved ones.
Frequency. Again, it's the same thing. Using an abstract word too concretely.
Okay, so in my mind, again, I will say that to me, that means frequency, when you're talking about paranormal things, is saying that as if everything was radio frequencies and you have dialed in to a particular
in other
channel.
words, like there is some dimension and you're moving in that dimension, and you can only be aware of something if you're in the same at the same point along that dimension.
Right.
And the dimension could be like a literal frequency, like turning a radio dial, or same as like a wavelength, or like a location, a positional dimension, or a time dimension. You're in the same spot. So like tuning a dial, the dial has to be at a particular location for it to for you to be able to interact with that thing. That does make sense, and that is a much more concrete way of putting it. Now, what the dimension actually is, like a literal frequency, something has to be waving. What's the thing waving? Light, gravity, like physical waves
This is all
of
true.
particles, or...
That's all true. So here's an example of another place that had the definitions of these numbers. For number 3, now you remember what I said about number 3, which you are a number 3 according to your birth date.
Various things.
Number 3 says you have a tendency to thrive in an upbeat, engaging atmosphere. Your energy is youthful and positive, and you have an incredible zest for life. You dance from one enjoyable experience to the next, eager to interact with others along the way.
So this is a different interpretation?
This is a different interpretation. The prize skill, the number 3, is communication. It uses this talent to build a wide and interesting circle of friends, lovers, and kindred spirits. The number 3 is highly original and embraces unique thinking and creative expression. This number's artistic, curious nature allows it to convey abstract ideas and find solutions others may miss. A child at heart, the number 3 never misses a chance to have fun, engage with others, and express all love and joy it embodies. That sounds more like you than the other one to me. That way sounds more like you. But
important thing is, though, there are a lot of possible interpretations of that number that could sound like a person, and especially because you're already biased looking at how it could fit you.
Yes.
That you will stretch that really far. You'll interpret a lot more than you usually would as matching you. And
okay, I'm gonna do a little experiment.
Okay.
So let me go back to that. So if you remember how charming it said I was on the other one, how charming and whatever, it just said all this flowery shit. I'm going to choose one of these numbers, and I'm not going to tell you whether I'm choosing the 9, which it said I was, or another number, and I'm going to read it. And you can decide whether it's the 9 or it applies to me or it applies to someone else.
Wait. Oh, yeah, okay.
The key characteristic of this number is curiosity and the need for a variety of exciting experiences in order to feel fulfilled. It craves freedom and adventure and isn't afraid to let the wind carry it where it may. Life isn't about setting goals and making plans. It's about getting out there and experimenting. Anything that stirs up the senses piques this person's interest, and it can't wait to partake in the experience. So do you think that was the number that applied to me? Or do you think that was another number? Or do you think that number applies to me and it wasn't the number?
So, like, the description applies to you versus it's not, because it's not the number.
Yeah. Does the description apply to me? Does it not apply to me? So do you think that's a 9 or it's another number? Do you think that description applies to me or it doesn't apply to me?
It's like saying, is this thing is it alive?
Let me just
does
say,
it have 2 legs?
Let me say, here's a little bit more. This number is the master of change, able to go with the flow and adapt itself to thrive in different environments and social situations. It's happiest when things feel fresh, high energy, and full of possibility. The moment an experience starts to feel routine or predictable, this person will move on to something more captivating. The only thing this number is truly attached to is being unattached.
It doesn't really sound like you.
You're right, it does not. And it is not a 9. It is a 5. So, I don't know, but here's the thing. Sometimes when you do that, you think, yeah, because you can see where it fits.
Again, because you just by virtue of doing it, you have biased yourself into... and again, this will happen regardless whether there's paranormal phenomenon or not going on. You automatically are going to be able to see how it fits you way more than usual.
Yes, you will be
if
looking
someone was
for that.
just talking, like spouting that off for somebody else, and it happened to be your number too, then you wouldn't think, oh yeah, that does really fit me,
Mm-hmm.
And that is so abstract. It's like if a personality, like a category, a cluster in a personality test matches 20% of people and there's 5 clusters. So, each person goes into one. That's more like it matches 70% of people and there's two clusters. So it's regardless, most people will think, oh yeah, that does match me.
Yeah, I think it's pretty general. In this case, I think I have some specific personality defects that made it absolutely impossible for that to have fit me.
Imagine this. Let's say it just says, this person likes enjoying themselves.
Who doesn't?
Because
by definition, enjoying yourself means you like something.
Yeah, like a very depressed person who hates everything, they're going to say no.
Okay,
so what? 95% of people.
Okay, the problem with numerology that I saw when I looked at it is that, as with so many things, people are trying to game it to make money. Whether they recognize that's what they're doing or not, that's what they're doing.
Yeah,
and
that will happen regardless the status of its paranormality.
Absolutely. So in the process of doing that, they try and claim some part of it as unique to their offering to try and do their game. Mm-hmm. And so there's lots of different interpretations. So modern crap on the internet, you have to discount it because immediately, if it's on the internet, somebody's trying to game it. They're trying to game it. So if you go to somebody and pay them money to figure it out for you, they're trying to game it. If you read a book, they've tried to game it.
In other words, what you would have to look for is
original ancient texts.
An ancient, probably obsessive person who wrote whatever their thoughts were about numerology down with no intention of any material gain whatsoever or social gain.
Yeah.
And so
it would have to be in like some forgotten religious text
and
hidden away.
And also probably they would have to have not been influenced by other works of numerology. So
true. So I just think that for the most part, this is too commercialized.
Yeah. I do want to bring up, though, briefly, there's this interesting field of mathematics. I think it's probably considered a field of mathematics called fractals. Now, fractals just really synchronize with New Age kind of stuff and paranormal stuff and whatever. But it's like a really interesting like area of study in mathematics. It's essentially when you do an operation to a number repeatedly, or a mathematical object like a thing. If you do it repeatedly, you get like this very complex behavior. Usually you look at the values in relation to one another. So there's like the Mandelbrot set. I don't want to go into complex numbers. It's this like shape that you get when you apply this very simple operation to numbers. And but the shape is like, oh, this number is in the set, this number isn't in the set. And when you look at them, no matter how close you look at them, there's this structure, to it. Theoretically, certain fractals actually contain information, not because they intrinsically contain like that detail, but because you've sought out that information and you found it. It's the same with like pi. The digits of pi, I believe, have been confirmed to be statistically random. But there are runs of digits of pi that actually contain the information for literally anything. There's an infinite number of them that are unique. They contain an infinite amount of information.
Wow.
So you could keep going and looking and find your house number, your birth date, your name in decimal form. Anything, literally anything. I mean, any string of digits
is in there.
Is in pi. Even like weird combinations like infinite strings of digits.
So you could say pi is the God number. Yeah.
So, I mean, and its relation to geometry, because like you can make arguments that pi is really significant. And it is. And I believe it's also true for E, which is it's another number that's very, very, way more important than pi, I think. And it's also in like, I think the golden ratio, because those are all irrational numbers.
Yeah, I think,
Things like that, where there is an infinite amount of information. It would be like this, okay? Let's say you go through pi and you find your name in decimal, okay? What does it say after the very first occurrence of your name in decimal? It's probably completely random for like literally billions of digits. But maybe there's another name after your name in decimal in pi. You know what I mean?
And that's your soulmate.
Yeah, or like you keep going until you find...
Maybe there is,
your house number, your birth date, your name consecutively.
Yes.
Which will also
will happen.
Occur in pi. Yeah. And then after that is the date you die. And you have to go through literally like a Googleplex numbers or something.
I think that's fascinating. And you may think that's meaningless, but okay, so let me just say something. Numerology is considered a pseudoscience by the scientific community, and I recognize that. Many people, however, find it insightful and use it for personal development and decision making.
Terrifying.
Is that terrifying?
Keep going.
Is that terrifying to you?
Well, in a respect it is, because...
But everything can be used. I could say this thing on the table right here in front of me, if I examine it and find meaning in it, I can apply it to my life and be enriched.
We've talked about this before, but there's value in even random things if it causes, like for instance, you're stuck. You have writer's block or whatever. And you look at a collection of random dirt or something totally random.
Okay.
And that's the thing that jostles your brain, and you then can continue whatever you were doing. There's value in that. Totally. Where did the value come from?
It came from within you.
Yeah. So it's not like the number
No. And that's what I always say is that the power is not in the external thing. The external thing is the thing that allows you to seek the power within yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so I acknowledge that it is way too commercialized. It is not to be trusted as some reliable, carved in stone thing, because these definitions vary from source to source. But I do feel strongly that everything affects something or even everything else. Everything does. So why wouldn't there be something to numerology? Why wouldn't there be?
So I should say, in some cases, like the assigning 9 categories to people thing, they're like literally, unless you want to break reality as we understand it, it goes beyond like paranormal stuff. There's literally no way to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some things can be easily tested. It's like, I'm going to flip a coin once, and heads means this fundamental thing about reality, and tails means this fundamental thing, and 2 people do it, and they both get opposite results. There's no solution. That didn't help.
Right.
Again, it's like, that's a statistical measure. When you do things more than once, so you're getting into statistics. If one person does it, they might get value out of that. Might even get meaning out of it. But then if it's entirely a personal thing, you can't sell it. You can't write a book about it.
Right.
You can't communicate it.
Right.
Or else it loses its value.
Right.
It's like idealism and brain in a box kind of thing. Terrifying. Like, imagine you are the only consciousness that exists. Nothing else, no one else exists. Solipsism. That is where the idea that there's no external thing. It's like idealism, but there's only one consciousness. And it's not the good kind. Not like panpsychism. There's one and everything else is a hallucination, which is pretty fucked. But a lot of people feel that way because of something going wrong in their brain, literally a brain malfunction. So, okay, then what? That's boring. That's horrible. It's, you know what I mean? When you start getting other people, like, what can you communicate? What is valuable to other people? What can you predict will be valuable to other people? Like, if we're talking about it, it's already lost its meaning if it's an individual thing. So, like, you could go out and have a spirit quest and find your numbers in the sand or whatever, but as soon as you communicate it, it's lost on the other person. It has no meaning to that person.
Truly Terrified is a Salt of the Earth production. Tell us your story and send us your comments. You can send us a 3-minute voicemail at 715-575-9420 or text us at that same number. Email us at lynnandjoeonthego@gmail.com. Our contact information is also in the show notes. Please share, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and never be so terrified you can't run.